Got two logical fallacies. Really, one's a logical fallacy and one is a biases, okay? But I'm going to call them logical fallacies, just keep it simple. But I got two of them for you this week. I know you're pumped, right? Get excited about it. The first one's going to seem like, I would never fall for this, okay? We've all fallen for this. I've fallen for this. You've fallen for this, okay? But we need to be aware of this. Okay, you'll hear that, you may hear like a parental, like if your parents, something might say to you, I'll give you an example in a second. Okay, the bandwagon fallacy is also sometimes called the appeal to common belief or the appeal to masses because it's all about getting people to do or think something because everyone else is doing it. There's the parental part, right? Everything else thinks this, as an example. Right, so here's the parental part, right? Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you have to do it. Just because everybody else wants to drive off the cliff doesn't mean you're going to do that too, right? I mean, that's why my mom, would say stuff like me when I was growing up, right? But it's true. What they're trying to get you to avoid is the bandwagon fallacy. Okay, let me give you an example here. 97% of scientists believe Darwinian evolution is correct. I made that number up. It's not true. Evolution is correct. Okay, so there's some appeal to authority here as well, right? Scientists, but 97%. Okay, well, I want to know who's the 3%. Now, those 3% could be crazy, right? Their ideas could be absolutely absurd, but I'd want to at least know why. Why are you not going along with this? Even if this was 100%, I'd still want to stop and say, why? What's the evidence that points to all the group, right? I think I mentioned this in appeal to authority is, you think about some of the people who made the greatest impact, like in the sciences, are people usually stood against the stream and said, no, I have data to, everyone else is saying this and it's easier just to go along with the crowd here. I'm going to stand against the stream and say, no, this is not actually supported by any evidence. And here's some evidence to the contrary. So when you're forming arguments, right, you don't want to just appeal to, everybody else is doing it. Okay. Again, that sounds so juvenile, like we all try to avoid that, but we all do it and we've all done it. And we've all fallen for it. Okay. All right. Let's look at, another example. I'm not picking on keto. Okay. This is just the latest diet du jour. Before this was paleo. Before that was Atkins, right? There's all these different diets. I'm just using this as an example. Everyone is using the keto. I've heard this argument. So this is why I thought of it. Everyone is using the keto diet, including my family. It must work. Okay. Okay. That doesn't mean keto is a bad dietary approach. It just means it may not work for you just because it works for others. And let's say your family does it, doesn't mean they're going to be able to sustain that for the long term. So just because they're doing it now doesn't mean that they'll be doing it in the future. So using this information by itself is not a good. Now you could say, hey, I have somebody who's a type 2 diabetic in my family and it's recommended they follow this diet and they've been following it, they've lost a lot of weight. They found that they can sustain it for a long period of time. It looks like it really works for them. The research literature supports that this diet is effective. Some of this I'm making up, some I'm not, right? And is effective at reducing fasting blood glucose levels and so on and so forth. Okay, now you got yourself a little bit of an argument. It's not just predicated on because everybody else is doing it, right? It's a little bit deeper than that. Okay, so I think the bandwagon fallacy, it's easy to see, but it's easy to fall for. Again, I've done it too. All right, let's look at the other critical thinking piece. And this isn't a logical fallacy per se, but it plays in the same idea of the bandwagon fallacy. It's called survivorship bias. Okay. And again, this is off of this website, Logically Fallacious here. I'm going to read this to you. I'll give you some examples. You'll clearly see it. Again, you'll clearly see it, but then you'll clearly fall for it, just like I have. Okay. This is the best summed up as dead men tell no tales. In its general form, the survivorship fallacy is basing a conclusion on a limited number of winner testimonies due to the fact we cannot do or hear the testimonies of the losers. This is based on the cognitive bias called survivorship bias. So it is a fallacy, but I tend to categorize it as more of a bias. So here's an example. Okay, I took this off of keto. I'm picking on keto again, not because I hate keto. I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest with you, but I think it can work for some people. The problem is the sustainability. Okay, so I'm getting down a rabbit trail here. So what you have here is testimonials. I pulled this off a website. This is public domain, so I'm not stealing something private from somebody, okay? What do you see here? You see all the success stories. What don't you see? So let's just say that these three people here, and then there's more. These three people here had amazing results. They obviously look great, right? So forth. They love it, so forth, okay? So of these three people, how many of people didn't experience positive results? You're only seeing the survivors. You're getting a selection bias. So you're only seeing those that have done well. You're not seeing the potential 5,000 people who failed at keto. And I'm not saying it's 5,000. I'm just giving an example. Now, it could be that every single person that's done keto has been successful, but you don't know that, right? You don't know that, and you'd have to figure out, okay, is this survivorship bias, right? Is this occurring with keto diet? I don't know, right? I'd have to ask other people. Well, no, I've heard plenty of this. I did it for a while and it wasn't successful for me. It worked for a little bit, like a typical kind of fad diet approach. I'm not saying keto is a fad diet, although I think it easily falls into that category for many people, not all people, many people. And then they fell out of it, right? And they regained all the weight, right? Or they felt terrible. The type of training they were doing did not fit keto diet, etc. But you're not going to, like, they don't put those on the testimonials. I tried keto and it didn't work out for me. I gained like 15 pounds. I tried keto and my LDL level went up, right? I mean, you don't hear that. You're only going to hear the positives. Now, again, this isn't about keto. I know it sounds like it's not. It's not about the keto diet. I'm saying that this survivorship bias is done quite a bit. Most marketing ploys are predicated on this, right? If you do this product, if you believe this way, if you follow this, everybody else, you're going to see success. And here's some examples of that. Therefore, you should do this, whatever it is, or you should believe this way, or you should think about this topic in such this way, because all these people that are doing it, right? That's easy to fall into. That kind of plays in this bandwagon fallacy as well. So, all right, that's all for now. Again, not about keto. It's not a keto talk. I hope you see the more the concept, right, than necessarily the dietary stuff. Okay, see you next video.